I've been doing this a long time, and I don't know that I have ever experienced or seen a 24-hour period so disastrous for a single administration, combining everything from economics mistakes to foreign policy mistakes, military mistakes, and simple PR mistakes with regard to how you are communicating to the American people. What a day for this administration. I'm going to talk you through it, and then later we'll get into some deeper analysis. Donald Trump holding a rally in Kentucky. Why? We don't know. I'll speculate in a moment. As he is heading out to the helicopter to take him to the plane to spend taxpayer dollars getting down to Kentucky to hold a rally, Donald Trump held a brief, I guess we would call it a gaggle or a little mini press conference with Caroline Leavitt standing right next to him, wearing a comically oversized cross to sort of cover the sins of their constant lying. Trump is asked what else needs to happen militarily for the Iran war to end. And Trump goes, well, more of the same. Here's a little hint. He has no plan and he has no idea.
What is it, Peter?
What more do you need to do militarily for this operation to end?
More of the same, and we'll see how that all comes out. Right now, they've lost their Navy, they've lost their Air Force, they have no anti-aircraft apparatus at all, they have no radar, their leaders are gone, and we could do a lot worse to one another. We're leaving.
And yet, at the same time that the goals are substantially complete, we're going to be there for a while. And at the same time that the price spikes are a blip, prices are going to stay high for a while. And at the same time that we really are wrapping this thing up, we're doing more bombing than ever. Hint, Trump has no plan. He was confronted about the report that confirms it wasn't some Tomahawk missile that Iran somehow obtained that they then used to bomb their own girls' school. It was the United States. And now Trump is asked, do you take responsibility for that? I mean, the buck stops with you. You are the commander in chief. And Trump goes, I know nothing about it.
Shows a new report says that the military investigation has found that the United States struck the school in Iran. As commander in chief, do you take responsibility for that?
That is what?
As commander in chief, do you
for what?
For the strike on the school in Iran? A new report says the military investigation has found it was the United States that struck the school.
I don't know about
it. He doesn't ever take responsibility and he knows nothing about it. Now, he previously said, oh, yeah, I do know about that. Iran got their hands on a missile and they bombed their own school. Oh, well, why are you saying that? Nobody else is saying that. Well, because I don't really know much about it. Huh. Now that we know what happened, he goes, not a clue whatsoever. Trump asked, are you concerned about domestic terrorism by Iran here in the United States?
About a domestic terrorist attack by Iran here, sir? No.
He's not worried about it. And why would he be? I mean, listen, he's not going to be suffering if there's some kind of attack. He's got Secret Service and the best protection maybe in the world. He's not worried, but we should be. Trump, again, on this issue of gender-affirming care, really struggling to say mutilation. Again, I just don't think the guy can say it.
And we're also adding in no men playing in women's sports, no transgender mutilization of our children.
No mutilization of our children. Okay, so he doesn't know the word. And then finally, Trump says he's even surprised by how much he's using the military as president in this second term. It's funny because we're not surprised. We didn't fall for the this is the real anti-war president thing.
We have, and I built it during my first term, and I used it. I didn't realize I was going to use it this much, but we have the greatest military in the world.
How is it that Trump is surprised by how much he's using the military, but none of us who were paying attention are surprised? I mean, I guess, you turn on Rogan and Rogan's like, this is crazy. We never knew that this was going to happen. It's wild. How could I feel like Trump is doing something different than what he promised. Yes, that's exactly right. And we made it clear as the campaign was raging And he was telling these very obvious lies and making impossible promises he had no intention of keeping. Impossible is a different question, but promises he had no intention of keeping. We're not surprised. If you saw Trump's first term, you wouldn't be surprised about where the second term landed. Now, when Trump was asked a question by a female reporter, it really triggered him. You know, it's not just that Trump got mad at a reporter. Trump gets mad at reporters all the time. It's the pattern where a female reporter confronts him directly. She has the facts. The facts make Trump look terrible. She doesn't back off when Trump tries to tell a lie. And he goes to the same playbook, which is to attack the female reporter. He's done it with Caitlin Collins. In the first term during the COVID press conferences, he would do it with Weijia Yang all the time. And this time it's Liz Landers. Trump tries to pull the whole "the election was rigged" thing, and she says, but it wasn't. And she has the receipts. And what does Trump do? He goes, "You're a rotten reporter." He cannot help himself.
Very well with Rwanda and with Congo, and we hope they're going to get along.
Sir, in Arizona, why did the FBI seize election records in that state?
Well, they probably thought the election was rigged, right?
It wasn't rigged, though.
Oh, really? How do you know?
Your own Attorney General in 2020 said that there was not measurable voter fraud to change the outcome of the election.
Think it was rigged? I think it was rigged.
There's no, sir. Where's the evidence of
Say
that?
it wasn't rigged. You're a rotten reporter.
Where's the evidence of that?
If you don't say it was rigged, you're a rotten reporter. There is a reason that this feels so familiar to us. This is what happens when strong women don't lay down and let Trump walk all over them. You know, the whole Hillary Clinton, she's a nasty woman thing. That's because Hillary Clinton didn't lay down and accept Trump's lies and insults. Caitlin Collins more recently, this was just, a couple months ago, I guess, 6 weeks ago, something like that, says she's the worst reporter. She never smiles. And he's previously referred to her as stupid and nasty. So the formula is woman doesn't back down. Trump pivots from the substance to the attitude or demeanor or personality or appearance of the woman and starts slinging insults. And he did the same thing to the Washington Post, Natalie Allison, saying, "Oh, you have a very bad attitude," when she didn't back down. This is a tell, okay? Trump often gets combative with men. There's no doubt. Jim Acosta, Peter Alexander, the guy from Axios, from The Worst Interview in the World. We have many examples of Trump getting combative with men. But there's an edge to how personal it gets when it's women, where it's like he's not only offended by the question, he's offended by the fact that a woman dares to ask him this way and then dares to follow up and dares to say, "No, that's not true, sir." So these are not isolated meltdowns. This is a very clear pattern where he doesn't like being challenged in general, but he really takes it badly when the challenge comes from a woman who is, number one, prepared, number two, calm, and number three, simply not willing to play along the way that Donald Trump wants her to play along. And that's why Liz Landers is so good in this moment. She does what, by the way, is just basic journalistic behavior, basic journalistic preparedness. She doesn't ramble. She doesn't moralize. She just goes, "Hey, here's the question. Yes, but that's not true." "What do you mean it's not true?" "Well, your own attorney general said it. You've presented no evidence that the 2020 election was rigged. Your side acknowledged that there is no evidence." And he cannot handle it. So this is how it works with Trump. Knowing that that's how he's going to react is a smart thing for reporters to do. The more accurate the question, the more confident the journalist, the uglier Trump's insults get. And this all was only the preparation for Trump arriving in Kentucky for a completely deranged rally. We are going to look at a completely desperate, swollen, soaking wet, sweaty orange Trump who fled to Kentucky in a panic to try to save his presidency as everything is collapsing around him. He may not be able to win his optional war in Iran. gas prices are through the roof, jobs are collapsing. And so Trump decided to hold a rally for no discernible reason other than straight up panic. Get me a group of my sickest sycophants and let me rant to them. And it was really, really bad. There were medical emergencies. There were lies. There were soaking wet armpits. I'll get to that. Nasty, nasty stuff going on. But a lot of rambling. And here is Trump just aimlessly rambling. Not only did the rally not really have any true purpose, even Trump seems to be, he calls it the weave. It seems more like a brain injury.
Powerful, very, very powerful. The wind, you're watching television and you want to watch, and your beautiful wife, our first lady, says, "I'm sorry, darling, you can't watch tonight. The wind has gone down." And
I thought she called him sir, not darling.
yeah. But I want to watch myself on television. I want to watch myself debate. She says, "I'm sorry, darling, we have absolutely no energy. There's no wind tonight." What a scam. That's a pretty big scam. That's one of the top. I say that's a top.
And of course, we do have this thing called batteries, but this was the theme, just deranged rambling. And these are some of what we might consider the good parts of the rally, where the audience was kind of engaged, but then they start to go silent as the crowd goes, what is wrong with this guy?
They knocked out 54 ships in 2 days, and they're real ships. In fact, I got angry at my people. I said, "Are they any good?" "Yeah, they're warships." I said, "Why the hell did we kill them? Why didn't we just capture them and use them in our Navy?" They said they wouldn't have qualified for that. But I got a little upset with my people. I said, "Why do we have to knock them?" And actually, one of my generals said, "Sir, it's a lot more fun doing."
Sir? Trump really struggling with a lot of words. He actually seems unable to say the word Kentucky. And he does one of his dog and pony shows where he pretends he's being cute and clever. I don't think the guy can say Kentucky.
Brand new construction jobs in Kentucky. Okay.
Kentucky. It's not Keene, New Hampshire, and it's not Kentucky. It's Kentucky.
Kentucky. I love the way a real Kentuckian pronounces it, but if I do it, but I love Kentucky.
I love Kentucky. At one point, Trump became distracted by the presence of influencer and I guess boxer Jake Paul in the crowd, but that didn't stop him from completely fabricating economic numbers out of thin air.
We got $18 trillion, and Jake Paul knows what that means.
Right.
$18 trillion in 11 months, because they haven't calculated the 12th month. So we have 18 trillion in 11 months.
And of course, these numbers are completely fabricated, made up out of thin air. The audio is terrible. That is something I think maybe Antifa was controlling the audio at the rally. Trump then, in a shocking moment, acknowledges that he was falling asleep during the Iran war planning, not exactly inspiring confidence and not exactly projecting virility and strength.
Regime in Iran with Operation Epic Fury. Is that a great name? Well, it's only good if you win. You can only do. And we've won. Let me tell you, we've won. You never like to say too early you won. We won. We won the bet. In the first hour, it was over.
Right.
Oh, we won. But they gave me a list of names at general. "Sir, you can pick the name you'd like, sir." I said, "The name of what?" "The name of the attack on Iran, sir." And they gave me like 20 names. And I'm like falling asleep. I didn't like any of them. Then I see Epic Fury. I said,
there you go. So Trump was falling asleep, but then seeing Epic Fury on a piece of paper really perked him up. Now, then it gets wacky. There was a medical emergency. And the medical emergency brought out the wackiest and most bizarre elements of Trumpism. First of all, it is a theme that Donald Trump holds these rallies in either extremely hot outdoor environments or sometimes indoors in environments that are not properly cooled. People start to faint. Sometimes they have to wait hours because Trump is hours late to his own rallies. Someone behind Trump faints, and the speech is paused right when Trump was ranting about new scum.
Can't let them. Did you see that they went to Munich, right? You saw
München.
that, right? You saw Gavin Newsom. He admitted that Gavin Newsom. So I think
And you'll see Trump gets distracted as people behind him start yelling that someone has passed out.
his career is over. Okay, let's get off the teleprompter. Do you mind if I get off the teleprompter for a couple of minutes?
The teleprompter Trump famously doesn't need.
Because this is, I have these great speech writers. I drive them crazy because half of the time I'm not. But Gavin Newsom, in an interview.
Now Trump turns around and someone has fainted. It's total chaos. And the speech is paused.
You have a doctor in the house, please? Doctor?
Now, which doctor were they able to come up with? This is beyond parody. It's Dr. Oz.
It's Dr. Oz. Can you believe it? Dr. Oz.
And there is Dr. Oz along with, it's just everything about this is crazy. So then as the break continues and Trump is trying to summon, I don't even know what, he requests that they play Ave Maria in the audience, but I guess his staffers weren't prepared for that.
To me? How about Ave Maria? Well, because is going to be okay. How about putting it in right now, Ave Maria, if they are listening? Ave
Right.
Maria by Pavarotti.
Okay. And then ending the medical emergency part of the rally, Trump tries to go back to new scum, but he kind of realizes it's not really going to land after what happened.
Thank you, everybody. Great job. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. We're talking about Gavin Newsom. Doesn't seem like a very good subject right now.
No.
It made that young lady not feel so good.
Right. Anyway, so then they move on and they get back to the substance, which was mentally deranged. Trump insisting that China is smart enough not to have any wind power. But of course, China's wind power capacity is absolutely massive.
It's interesting. China uses a lot of coal. China is very smart. They use coal. What they don't use much of, if at all, are windmills. So they make all the windmills, and they sell that garbage to us. Round and round it goes, keeps losing money. Every time it goes around, it loses $25. That's a lot, and kills a lot of birds. Kills them all. If you shoot a beautiful bald eagle, they put you in jail for 5 years. Windmills kill them by the thousands. Okay, figure that one out.
There you go. And then Jake Paul actually gets up on stage, and you'll notice Jake Paul has some of the most aggressive armpit sweat stains I've maybe ever seen, which, by the way, we're not making fun of. It's indicative, first of all, of the conditions at these rallies. And secondly, maybe Jake Paul has hyperhidrosis. I don't know. But it also seems as though the crowd doesn't really know who he is, which makes the big reveal even funnier.
But you know what it showed? Lots of courage.
But Jake Paul has sweat through a suit. Folks, I know that this could be a medical condition, but it just goes to the conditions at these rallies. He has sweat through maybe an undershirt, although he's probably wearing what we might consider, what's it called, an A shirt? There's like a domestic abuse term that's often used for those shirts, wife beaters, which I find completely inappropriate. But in any way, the point is, if it's not a full undershirt, he's not sweating through it. He's wearing a shirt and a suit. I've never seen someone sweat through an entire suit before.
Come here, Jake. Say a few words. These are your people.
Yeah, what Mr. Trump has taught me is courage. We never back down from a fight, even if they're much bigger than you, much, much bigger than you. And I feel all the local Kentuckians feel the same way. You guys have that fight. You guys have that swag. There's a lot of young kids in here. The future of America. I grew up just a few hours away from here, and my dad taught me to fight. And all of our voices matter in America. And I'm never afraid to speak the truth. And I know you guys aren't. We are here representing the United States, and it's just a blessing. Thank you, Mr. Trump. We need more factories.
What does it even mean that they're there representing the United States? That's a really weird thing. Anyway, so Jake Paul speaks and the audience is not particularly moved by it. And finally, in a sign of respect and decorum, Donald Trump wraps up the rally as over 150 service members have been injured thanks to his war of choice. We are approaching 10 Americans killed thanks to his war of choice. We've got an economic disaster. Gas prices are now up 30% since January. As I am broadcasting to you right now, the Dow is down another 600 points. And here is how Trump commemorates that. Vomitus. Vomitus. What the hell has happened to this country? The David Pakman Show is an audience-supported program, and the best, most direct way to support the show is by becoming a member at joinpakman.com. You'll get the daily bonus show, the daily commercial-free show, and plenty of other great membership perks. Get the full experience by signing up at joinpakman.com. During the propaganda tour that started on the White House lawn and ended with Donald Trump holding a rally for some unknown reason in Kentucky, he did stop in Cincinnati, Ohio. And while in Cincinnati, Ohio, he visited a factory. And as usual, any little thing that he tries to do goes horribly wrong. Trump did attempt to take some questions, and Peter Doocy from Fox News actually asked Trump a reasonable question for once, which is what is happening in Iran a war? Or is it a little excursion? Both terms that Donald Trump has used to refer to it. And Trump goes, well, it's kind of both.
Yes, you just said it is a little excursion, and you said it is a war. So which one is it?
Well, it's both. It's both. It's an excursion that will keep us out of a war, and the war is going to be. For them, it's a war. For us, it's turned out to be easier than we thought.
You know, I jokingly started to refer to this thing as Schrodinger's war. And it was kind of a stupid joke, although many of you liked it, but many of you didn't. No, nobody wrote to me saying they didn't like it, but it was just sort of an offhanded comment. But increasingly, this is the most hard to define military intervention, maybe in human history. It is a war, but it's only an excursion. The goals are complete, but we're going to need to stay there for a while. We are done, but we are doing more bombing than ever. What the hell is going on? And part of this is, of course, that they recognize that every single one of these claims comes with a problem attached to it. If it's just straight up a war, it's probably illegal because you didn't get congressional authorization. If it's not a war, how do you justify that we are losing American service member lives and also seeing people injured and crushing the economy as a result? If the point was regime change and we've completed that, how do you explain that the Ayatollah's son, a member of the exact same regime, has now come to power? I could go on with these examples. And so what you end up with, tongue in cheek, is Schrodinger's war. It is and isn't everything at the same time. Now, faced with the skyrocketing costs, etc., and faced with the reality that the gas prices and oil prices are unlikely to come down anytime soon, Donald Trump seems to be shifting strategy to just saying prices are down, which I don't think anybody's falling for.
Back in a pretty short while, prices are coming down very substantially. Oil will be coming down. That's just a matter of war. That happens.
It happens, and Trump has decided that it is worth it. He's decided your sacrifice is worth it to him to play his war games, which are having deadly consequences and disastrous economic consequences. Now, of course, you already know prices haven't come down. If inflation is more than 0.0, prices are going up. They might be going up at different speeds. Inflation of 2% versus 4% versus 6% is all prices going up. If inflation goes from 6% to 3%, prices are still going up, just not as quickly. Is anybody falling for this? And then Trump tries to get out of the event, and the business owner says, we were actually going to show you our packaging operation. You'll see Trump try to walk away, and then they go, Mr. President, sir, we were going to show you our packaging operation. And you can tell Trump just seems thrilled about it.
In 28 years, medicine's only gone up, and we brought it down by, in many cases, 80% more. So it's an honor, and you're a big recipient because it's good for your business, right?
Absolutely.
Good. Thank you very much.
We're proud to be a part of the American supply chain and reshoring pharmaceutical operations. So thank you very much.
That's what we're doing. We're bringing it back to our country where it should be. Thank you.
Mr. President, Alan was actually going to show you a little bit about our packaging operation
Okay.
and how we bring medicine.
Trump's like, oh, okay. Wow. Is there no way we could just leave and then maybe have a couple filet-o fishes on the plane on the way to Kentucky for the rally? So this is all not going well. Every attempt to appear engaged with and concerned for the suffering of the American people at his doing turns into one of two things: a president who clearly doesn't give a damn about you, or a president who insists he does care, but he just lies about the truth of what's going on. Such lies including the prices have come down substantially when every single American knows that they haven't. We are going to hear from Steve Bannon now. And Steve Bannon, top Trump guy. I mean, listen, this is like one of the architects of Trumpism. I don't know that we get a President Trump back in 2016 if it's not for Steve Bannon. He says about Iran, the whole freedom isn't free thing, I don't think it's landing. I don't think anybody is really happy about this and believes that their lives are going to improve because of this war in Iran. This is Bannon. Listen to this.
This phrase, freedom isn't free. I think when you do wars like this, I'm not so sure that's a phrase that resonates with people. I'm not happy that we're in it, but you're in it. So you got to figure out how you have victory, because victory is what matters here. It would be catastrophic for us to not have victory in this. And I realize that may rub some people the wrong way, but I think that's just a hard reality, what we have to deal with.
Bannon's kind of saying the whole idea of this Iran war is totally screwed up. But now that we're in it, if we lose the war, by whatever definition we're applying to that, we're really screwed. Now, Steve Bannon, you could say a lot of things about Steve Bannon. I think he's completely amoral, for example. But he's not a random critic, and he's not a moron. He is one of the people who helped build Trumpism. So when Bannon says, I'm not happy we're in it, I don't think freedom isn't free, is landing with people, it's not resonating with people, this is a major red flag from inside your movement. And it's about much more than just Iran, because the core of what Trump sold to his voters was, I'm a strong man, I'm alpha, I'm great. A lot of Republicans run with that. That's not unique to Trump. But I'm going to be a Republican that ends the Bush era formula of endless wars and patriotic slogans like freedom isn't free and making working people pay the price for your delusions. A huge part of the MAGA pitch was no more of that stuff. No foreign entanglements, no stupid wars. I never would have gone into Iraq, even though Trump previously said that he actually would have. So when Bannon goes, this isn't resonating, what he's really saying is the branding that Trump sold us doesn't match the product. And the interesting part is that Trump's coalition, I guess I would call it, has always had two instincts inside of it. There's been the nationalist anti-interventionist instinct, which is what Trump pushed, but Trump was pushing it rhetorically. And there was a wing that was genuinely suspicious of foreign wars, focused on borders, prices, the decline at home. Tucker Carlson is kind of in that wing. The other wing that ultimately came to support Trumpism is the old Republican hawkishness, but they put on the MAGA hat. And they were attracted by military force. They were attracted by the performance of strength and military parades and actual military action abroad. Trump kind of kept those groups together because he made both of them believe he was on their side. This is sort of like, take any issue on abortion. Do we punish the women? Well, you got to punish the women, Trump told Chris Matthews back during his first campaign. And then the next day, the campaign goes, he didn't mean that. We got to punish the doctors. So if you want the women punished, you go, oh, Trump did say they should be punished. If you want to punish the doctors, Trump said that too. And then on a later day, Trump goes, but you got to have some exceptions. So if you're for exceptions to no abortion, you've got that as well. For a while, Trump being the anti-war guy, but appealing to the hawkish, rah-rah, pro-bombs people, was able to work because he didn't immediately go in and start new wars. But then now he's doing it. And so now with Iran, once you're in a real war, you can't keep going, I'm the peace candidate. Now he's trying by saying, we need to do this to get to peace, or I'm getting involved to end a war that Iran started. I don't think his followers are believing that crap. And Steve Bannon understands something that a lot of Republicans don't, which is that it's less about Iran specifically, although I don't think any of them think going into Iran is worthwhile. It's about being betrayed because they came to believe that Trump was different. And they are now reconsidering that. I don't believe that this means MAGA collapses tomorrow. We're doing an analysis. It doesn't mean this is it. A lot of these people are ultimately going to fall in line. They usually do. But there's a very real split here. And it matters because it shows that Trumpism was never a coherent governing philosophy. He was able to hold it together by a string with rhetoric, where he would coalesce certain types of anger and grievances and anti-war rhetoric, but he's also a macho nationalist, so he must also be kind of like George W. Bush. It all worked a little bit, but it was hanging by a thread, and now it explodes. So one of the clearest signs that Trump's war with Iran is creating major problems domestically is that Bannon is going, freedom isn't free, just isn't landing. I'm not happy we're in it, but God forbid we lose, which is the next problem Trump is facing. It's not clear he can win this war, even by the standards he set. If you like this show, I would love for you to get my Substack writing. Each day, I'll send you a rundown of what's on the show, what's happening, what matters, why. It's free, no spam. Substack is also the only place where we own our data. So if we get censored on social media or on any platform, Substack's going to be the only way I can tell you what is going on. Sign up now at davidpakman.substack.com. All right. Alex Wagner is here.
Hi,
Great
Dave.
to see you. Great to talk to you.
Thank you for having me. I feel very honored.
Well, I was very interested to see your latest Substack post. Pete Hegseth is maybe the worst of all. And I'm very interested in this. I was with the governor, Gavin Newsom, recently, and I asked him,
As
now
was
that
I, not long ago.
He's a nasty guy, as Trump would say. And I asked him, now that Kristi Noem is gone, who do you think is the most dangerous or the worst? And he said without hesitation, Stephen Miller. And I think Stephen Miller certainly has traits and characteristics that are extremely disturbing. But Pete Hegseth right now is at the center of what seems to be, as I call it, Schrodinger's war. It is a war and it's not a war. It's over, but it's just getting started. Why Hegseth, though? Like, lay out the case, I guess.
I think you basically nailed it, which is, Stephen Miller is a fascist and is the architect of our national despair, no doubt. But the fact is, we need information from Pete Hegseth, right? I think there's still a lot of us that are interested in what is being done in our name, the atrocities, the war crimes, and the war that's being waged in our name. And for that, we need information from the Pentagon and from the Secretary of Defense. And so we are forced to be reliant on Pete Hegseth for information and, I guess, strategy in a way that we're not with Miller. Miller right now exists in shadows. And I'm not saying that he's like more or less nefarious than Stephen Miller, but I think his role in public life is different. And I find each and every briefing that Pete Hegseth gives is worse than the last, which is saying something because they're all pretty awful. his like faux sincerity and faux empathy, his testosterone-fueled patriotism, his, insincere religiosity. I mean, just all of it he is so without true moral character, and it's on display in a really visceral way on a daily basis. And that's why I find him the most insufferable. And caveat is like for right now, right? Like I mean, I've always found him to be clownish and dangerous. And this moment, I think, ratchets all that up to an exponentially high level. But some other thing will happen when another member of Trump's inner circle has the spotlight on him or her. And I'm sure I'll find them equally distasteful. But for me right now, as I say in the piece, like the Pentagon and the villainy on display there deserves its own curtain call.
One of the things that feels sort of different about Iran from what I'm seeing, and I'm curious if you're seeing the same thing, is that sometimes with these military engagements, if you question them from the left, you kind of get very quickly branded as, what, so you like the Ayatollah? You think these radical theocracies are good? And one of the things that my sense is it's not landing quite as well. Like, I've been very clear with my audience. I'm an anti-authoritarian progressive. So the Ayatollah is not my cup of tea. Kim Jong-un, Putin, Maduro, and Chavez, the Cuban regime. Like, I'm a small L libertarian in the sense of I'd rather not have governments control things unless we have a really good reason to do so.
Yeah.
And it seems clear that people you can say this is not a theocratic regime that our values would say, hey, this is great. But there's a reason that many presidents for decades could have done this but chose not to. And Trump seems to have been goaded into it. So I guess my question, what I'm building to here is there a clear understanding here that support of the regime is a completely separate question from saying this is a good idea?
Yeah, it's such a good point to bring up because I think at the outset of the attack, there were a group of older Democrats, especially in elected office, who felt like they needed to say, "I'm no fan of Khamenei, but I think this is the wrong move." And I don't think people feel that they need to clarify, like, "I'm no friend of an autocrat," because in part people like Trump in 2012 and 13 and 14 and 15 were part of a national conversation about why regime change was bad and that you could not be a supporter of regime change and American interventionism and wars without end. And you could exist in the Republican Party and in the conservative movement because you understood that just hemorrhaging blood and treasure forever was not in America's interests, right? Like that normalized, I think, a reluctance to go to war and made it nonpartisan, which is why in this moment, you're not going to necessarily be branded sort of a fan of autocrats if you say, hey, maybe attacking Iran and spinning the region into a global war that has engulfed 20 countries and killed 1,300 people and numerous American service people is not a good idea. I just think if anything, the hangover of the Iraq war taught us some lessons and we would do well to understand them. And I think some certain number of people do, and it has changed the conversation, I guess for the better, because it's not just this neatly sort of partisan landscape in which you have to argue one way or the other.
I saw just now a clip of Senator Blumenthal saying that he just came out of a briefing, and I'm paraphrasing, but this was like the most disturbing briefing of his career, and that he seems to have come away believing that we're moving towards troops on the ground. Now, there's kind of like two stories here. One is Trump said that this is basically complete yesterday. I don't know what that means, but he said it's because when you look at all of the possible metrics, none of them have actually been accomplished, but that's a separate story. Second part of it is, it really doesn't seem like when gas prices have gone up 22% in a week and 92,000 jobs were lost in February, people's 401ks are collapsing. I don't see any appetite, even from the people who like these sorts of interventions, to start committing ground troops. Is there any political wing that is into that, in your opinion?
No, I mean, I think this is where Trump is like, this is the most dangerous Trump, I think, which is when his ego is on the line and he's backed into a corner, right? Like, this was a mistake. It is not Venezuela. It is the thing that most American presidents didn't want to see happen, right? And he's the one doing it, and he owns it entirely. And he, as you say, none of the goals have been achieved, but he also sees the political reckoning that's about to take place in November.
Right.
The way in which this has completely derailed his party on the economic message, and the fact that it could the situation in Iran could end up measurably worse than it was before the U.S. even went in. And so this is where I think he becomes the most unpredictable. And I do think he's talking out of, I mean, it's not just what I think. He's clearly talking out of both sides of his mouth. And there's the intended audience, I think, sometimes, which is the markets, which is when he says it's almost over and like, please stop freaking out about oil prices and don't worry, I'm like, calm yourselves. And then there's this sort of commander in chief where he is, on Air Force One, or he says, this is the collateral damage of war. People are going to die. This is just what it takes. You have to stick with me. I genuinely don't know which Trump is going to be actually calling the shots in the next couple days, but I think the door is open to any possibilities. And so in the same way that it's unclear what the catalyst was for actually giving the green light to start attacking Trump, to start attacking Iran and assassinate its leader, I don't know what the catalytic agent will be for him to decide whether to put boots on the ground. But I don't think I don't think any of us know, because he's so wildly unpredictable in moments like this.
Yeah, I have to imagine that as reckless as he can be when he gets an idea that he's not going to be talked out of it, at the same time, he is sort of known for doing what the last person he speaks to before a decision suggests. And I have to imagine that, there were these reports that Friday people were running around the White House screaming about gas prices, Susie Wiles and other people, because all of a sudden they're dealing with this problem. I have to imagine that there are people around him, all of whom would say, this is objectively a disastrous idea. You will destroy your presidency. You will destroy the party. But maybe I'm wrong, or maybe he wouldn't listen to them. I don't know.
I don't think Trump cares about the part. I mean, the fact that I think it's very telling that he's bringing up the Save America Act again, that his strategy for the midterms is not, let me put the Republican Party in the best place possible on as much of a glide path as I can to hold on to Congress. It's let's rig the system because I know I'm about to lose and keep people from voting. The fact that he's talking about this in the middle of a political maelstrom is indicative of someone who's not really navigating the waters in the best way for his party. So I don't think that, yes, I think it matters that Susie Wiles is saying things. I think some of that resonates, but to your point, and Lindsey Graham on the golf course can convince him to attack. I just think we're all over the place here. And if I suppose the thinking will be, if I can convince myself to convince the American public that having an even harder line cleric in the role is enough of a success to get out, then I'll get out. I do think Trump understands that troops on the ground is going to ratchet this up even more, but I don't think that and it will make life very difficult for him and his party, but I don't think that that's necessarily that makes it a non-starter.
Let's talk a little bit about the Democratic Party. We both recently saw the Gavin Newsom book tour up close and personal. I'm very interested in what's going on right now. I think big picture, there seem to be a lot of possible 2028 candidates who are writing books, who are doing book tours, who are taking as many interviews and getting as much exposure as they kind of can. I'm curious your view on, in the space I occupy, I'm seeing a lot of comments from people on the left about, here's my laundry list of people I will never vote for, whether it's in a primary, whether they make it to the general. And there's a lot of people on that list. There's Gavin Newsom, there's Josh Shapiro, there's J.B. Pritzker, there's Pete Buttigieg, there's certainly Kamala Harris is high on the list. My view has always kind of been, I of course have preferences that are more or less aligned with my political views. But at the end of the day, when it is election day, I will look at my options and say, what's the best option? Sometimes the best option is the least bad. Sometimes the best option is someone you genuinely like. I don't know. But for my sort of way of approaching things, it's weird to say many years out, if X is the nominee, I will never vote for them, not even knowing who's going to be the sort of other option. Say whatever you want about kind of how I framed it, if you have, an idea there. And also, do you believe that there is a greater rift right now within the political left than there has been in years past?
Oh, that's hard to say. I mean, Trump does mask a lot of divisions within the party, right? He's so the evil is so clear and present that it's become a very effective rallying tool for the party, the Democratic Party. I don't get the same converse. I don't see the same level of dismissal at the stage of the game in the Democrats that I speak with. What I see is a party much more at sea. And I'm not going to say in the wilderness, because I do think Democrats could win the White House. And I do think that they have a case for democratic governance, but I see a kind of like real lack of leadership within the party, a real gravitational center, and that is dangerous, I think, on some level. But it also, I think, is people that I speak to are like, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to go for whoever's going to win, but I don't know. And I don't know. I mean, it opens the field to, I mean, anything could happen. And I think it's a real question about how much, for example, immigration is litigated in the 2028 campaign. And honestly, what Congress does, if Democrats are in power of one or both houses, it's going to force the Democrats to really decide what the party is about and what the platform is and how much it's about, correcting the grave ills of the Trump administration or acting as an oversight body and I know people are going to say, you can walk and chew gum, you can do both, but they are going to have to make choices about what they want to do first. Is it about proposing new legislation? Because there's a fuck ton that Congress, sorry my language, there's so much that they could and should enshrine into law. And we see in the Trump administration how important it is to have a functioning Congress. Or they could act as a check on Trump's worst impulses. It all depends on the balance of power, and it depends on, how the party decides to move forward. And I do think that that's going to have a role in who rises to the top of what I think will be a very crowded primary field in 2028. I mean, I just think I guess what I'm saying is I think it's super wide open. And most of the people I talk to are just kind of like have thrown their hands up and they're like, okay, well, we'll see, and there's both peril and opportunity in that.
How would you go about objectively answering the question, if we have the political spectrum and the last nominee, Kamala Harris, is here, wherever here is, how would you
Where
answer
is
the question?
here?
Well, I guess
What's
it's center left. Center left, I guess.
Okay.
How would you decide whether in 2028 the Democratic Party would be better served by moving left or more to the center from the last nominee? Like, how would you analyze that?
I think it's I don't know that I would I think Harris, with her 107 days to run and the kind of candidate she was just incredibly, and the fact that she was the vice president for the sitting president was just insanely cautious, too cautious in many ways, I think, in terms of articulating real fulsome positions on anything and giving people a sense of what it meant to be a Democratic president. I mean, I think you need to see a lot more from Democrats as far as what they actually want to do. And I guess I wouldn't use her as the sort of the compass point. I just think there was so much gray area in that candidacy. I guess she was center left, but on some things she felt very center, and on others it was incoherent what her position was. And so, I mean, I think what Democrats are going to have to do, unlike Kamala Harris, is to really stake out a position. And I genuinely think, and I'm really not trying to be both sides are here, well, at least in terms of the left. I genuinely think that what people want right now and what voters want are Democrats to show conviction and to be honest. And I think if you have a Democrat out there who's like, I really believe that we need to build on the immigration reform, this is just an example, but has more of a centrist position on immigration and makes a full-throated argument for that and is ready to take incoming on it, you can sell that to the American public. Likewise, if you have a much more radically populist economic agenda, I do think you can sell that to the American people too. But what matters is that the people who are selling these ideas to the American public as candidates are authentic about it and the conviction is real. I mean, if there is one thing to learn about Trump, who is, arguably without any kind of compass at all, he listens to himself. And that is hugely attractive to American voters. And I think Democrats need to have conviction about what they stand for. And within that framework, there's a lot of space to run whatever platform they want. I don't think we're at a moment where it's like the country is crying for this particular piece of policy. I think that what they're calling for more is somewhat of character and conviction. I sound like a fucking politician myself. Sorry.
Well, what I think is interesting is sometimes there's in the postmortems of 2024, I've interviewed people who say, what were Kamala Harris's top 3 policies? And the whole point is like, well, I don't really know.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, gotcha. But what you're kind of saying is like, maybe that's not actually the most important thing. And it's
I
that she
don't.
just wasn't connecting with voters in a more authentic way.
You just didn't get a sense that she had true conviction about any of these issues. I mean, I don't mean that to be a slight, because I think she had an enormously difficult task. But I also think that was a problem with her 2020 campaign. It's like, well, where do you really stand on this? And that was thrown into like a compression chamber in 2024, where she had no time to actually sort through how she wanted to market herself as a candidate and just had to go, go, go.
Right.
I think you have to you have to know who you are and what you believe to win this thing. And I think that there's a lot of running room that the candidates can have with regards to specific policy. Like, I would never say you have to have it has to be this way on taxes or this way on healthcare or this way on immigration. I think it's like, you got to sell it, you got to believe it, and you got to like really go out there and be unafraid.
Do you have an opinion right now as to the potential role of and this is not all one wing, but AOC, Zohran Mamdani, James Tallarico, that group that activates maybe a slightly different wing of voter from the Democratic Party, or even from outside the Democratic Party, people that are like on the left, but they don't consider themselves or aren't Democrats. Do you have a sense of what the role of that wing will be in 2028, or
Well,
what it should be?
I think you could see some of them running. I think AOC, I think all of them are immensely talented. And they sort of prove my point, which is like, they are specific to their own. I mean, what did you say? Tallarico's, I mean, I would argue Tallarico's more center left than, I mean, it's a generational difference more than anything else with the rest of the field. But like, Mamdani and AOC are products of New York, right? And so they come from a different political culture. But what we should learn from them is like injecting vibrancy and humor and normalcy and, connection is essential in any season of politics, but especially now. And I really love how there is a warmth and a genuineness and a lack of apology about who they actually are that is so alluring. And I think the sort of, I mean, I don't mean to make it all sound like it's about character, because I obviously think that the meat of the thing is what you're actually proposing. But I would be loath to apply the lessons from a New York mayoral run to national political run, right? But I do think when it comes to bringing people inside the tent and appealing to voters who don't necessarily think of themselves as Democrats, it's about harnessing communications the way that they all have, and unique and really interesting ways. But it's fundamentally about, I mean, it's a generational difference of like how they see politics is very different than how Chuck Schumer sees politics, and their level of accessibility, their level of honesty and humor. And I really think the joyful warrior thing is really, really works for all of them. And that is something that makes people want to listen to you. If you're in the fight and you're there for real and you're enjoying it, you bring people along with you.
When it comes to the Republican side, it's been interesting the last few weeks. Trump's been expressing what I can really only describe as lack of confidence in which direction, there's this Rubio versus Vance thing that keeps coming up, where, he seems, although Vance is maybe the obvious heir apparent just because he's VP, I don't know that Trump likes him that much. He's extremely unlikable and uncharismatic. And Marco Rubio, it's not like I would go, we need Marco Rubio as president. But given the option between Rubio and Vance, I find Rubio to be much more intelligent, knowledgeable, much smarter as a politician, understands diplomacy. Okay. What do you think about question one? Is Trump even going to be in a position to choose his heir? Because I think if he gets weakened by the midterms, he may not even be the kingmaker. And two, is the Republican Party going to want to go away from anything that seems MAGA, or is MAGA maybe here to stay?
Oh, I mean, I hate making predictions, especially where it concerns Trump, right? I don't know. I think Trump is a really unique creature in American politics. And as loathsome as I find him, he's also uniquely talented in terms of his connection and his almost the religious fervor he brings to the game. And so I would be hesitant to dismiss him, even if the economy's in the shitter and, jobless rates are high. He appeals to people on a really visceral, almost religious level. Like, I've been to a number of Trump rallies in my course of life being a reporter, and there's something about them that's really kind of unique and deeply emotional. And that's nobody else that I know in the Republican Party has that. When it comes to JD Vance and Marco Rubio, listen, if you can't order donuts on the campaign trail and make a viral video out of it, you're not meant to be the president of the United States.
Right.
I think, I think Vance is an incredibly weak candidate. But I'm old enough to remember when Marco Rubio gave the response to the State of the Union with the little water bottles. Like, he's not exactly a comfortable candidate himself. Like, it's just that we're operating in the world of the least worst options. And I will say, in the Senate, Marco Rubio did do some things with bipartisan appeal, and I would imagine he would tack more towards the center if he actually did become the nominee. And I also imagine that he was promised Trump's ring if he became his Secretary of State. So Trump is absolutely.
You think so?
Oh, for sure. I'm sure he I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a Vance Rubio ticket if that, and I don't know who's at the top of it, but
Right.
I think promises were made along the way. I mean, and being Secretary of State isn't a bad gig either, but I'm sure Trump loves to dangle, whether it's pardons or power. He loves to dangle carrots at the end of the wand. So I don't think we know who is going to be up and who's going to be down by 2028, but you can be sure that Trump is going to draw out the process and make a reality TV show out of it, because that's what he loves to do, is play his children off of each other. Just ask Ivanka, Don, and Eric.
Yeah, I think that's the safest bet, that Trump will try to assert a gamification of it to the extent that he can. Alex Wagner will link to the Substack. We'll link to the podcast. Great to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. It was great to talk to you too.
We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
The David Pakman Show is an audience-supported program, and the best, most direct way to support the show is by becoming a member at joinpakman.com. You'll get the daily bonus show, the daily commercial-free show, and plenty of other great membership perks. Get the full experience by signing up at joinpakman.com. We haven't heard interviews with your average Trump supporter for a while. And part of the reason that we haven't is that there haven't been Trump rallies for a while. But we got one. Why? Because Trump is desperate to save his collapsing presidency. He's been underwater in terms of approval for over a year now. So Trump held a rally in Kentucky. And outside of the rally, Newsmax, as well as, what was this other one? Real America's Voice, both interviewed Trump supporters. And it's really, 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 really bad.
Silence. And sir, why is that? Why are there no Thomas Massey supporters here for Donald Trump?
I can't speak for this area, but
you're in his district.
Right. Well, I'm 4 hours from here. I'm in Western Kentucky. So Thomas Massey, to me, has been a formidable person in the Trump administration, but he has a tendency to flip-flop on some issues. And
he does vote with the president about 90% of the time, though. Let me ask you, sir, the war in Iran, is this going to help the president if he...
Now, just so people know, the gentleman they're now speaking to about Iran is wearing a donkey pox shirt. Okay.
Can get out of it in the next couple of weeks, or could this potentially hurt him heading into the midterms?
I think it should help.
The Iran war will help Trump in the midterms, and it will help Republicans. This analysis I have to hear.
It doesn't last too long. We don't want it to last too long, but it's something that needs to be done for 47 years.
Absolutely.
It's needed to be done for 47 years. This guy fell for the talking point.
Boots on the ground, does that concern you, sir?
Yes, sir. I've got a grandson in Jordan at this particular time, and it does concern you. But at the same time, I'm like Danny, I do feel like it's needed to be done for a long time.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. We appreciate it.
You know, one of the interesting things is they started, this is a very interesting illustration of how talking points filter down to people who don't really even understand them. This 47 years talking point has been floating around. This regime has been in place for 47 years, And this should have been done 47 years ago, and therefore Trump is right to do it and every other president was wrong. Except over the last 47 years, it's not just been Democratic presidents that have opted not to try to kill and remove the Iranian regime. It's also been Republican presidents. And you end up in a situation where you have to argue for one of two things. Either Trump knows something or is stronger and powerful and more audacious and more alpha than every other president, and Trump is doing the right thing, and every other president was wrong not to go into Iran and try to kill the Ayatollah. Or Trump got goaded or baited because he's so gullible into doing this thing, either by Iran or Israel or some combination of the two. These individuals never consider, maybe the reason we didn't do it for 47 years was that it was a bad idea. Maybe other presidents understood the warnings from intelligence officials and military officials that, hey, we would take a lot of losses. Hey, this would be really bad for the economy. By the way, they might just put in place the next heir to the theocratic Ayatollah's regime. But they have fallen for the 47 years talking point, as in, if we could have done it for 47 years, we should have done it, and therefore Trump is right, which lacks a lot of critical thinking. Here's another one. Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend and I guess fiance, Brian Glenn, also interviewing people at Trump's rally, and it's terrifying.
For you guys coming up on the midterms, and what's the number one concern for you right now?
I mean, just want the Republicans to show out and not be too confident. That's a really concern for mine, and just making sure that all these policies get pushed through. Some of them are no-brainers.
No-brainer, like the SAVE Act, no-brainer, voter ID, right?
Right, correct.
Pretty simple, right?
Yeah, pretty simple.
Yeah. So why did you vote? I'm assuming you voted for President Trump. What was the number one issue why you voted for President Trump this past election?
He's just a great person all around. He's genuine. He cares about the country, cares about people, and he's really...
By the way, Steve, Gulf of America. There you go, right there. You got to love that.
These are true cultists.
Well, number one issue for you?
Pro-life. I am pro-life.
Yeah. See the pro-life representative. How about you, sir? Immigration. Lock the borders down. How about you, sir?
I'm here to support our troops, and I think that we should take good care of them. And
Wait a second. Support the troops and take good care of them. Does that count as what Trump is doing with this optional war where troops are dying and being injured? Is he taking care of them?
And try to do things, articulate things well, and be disciplined with our planning and follow the rules of engagement.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Number one issue for you, sir?
Well, I'm a dad of 2 young kids, so I guess I'll say family value.
Family values. How about you?
I'm just proud to be an American.
There you go. I like that. Might be the best answer I've got all day. How about you guys? Number one issue.
What do you think? Probably pro-life and stuff like that.
What's our number one issue? She asks her friend. Can you tell me what am I supposed to say here?
Pro-life, things like that. I like that. How about you, sir?
Bombing the snot out of Iran.
Bombing the snot out of Iran. That's a unique one. How about you guys? Number one issue this campaign.
Well, I just think in general the country needs to get in their Bible more. That's all. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not interested.
Not interested. You're just here to enjoy the free popcorn. Let's go inside. All right, number one issue for you guys right now on the ballot, and why should we pass the SAVE Act?
I'm not from around here.
You're not from around here. We got to pass it. Do you support voter ID? ID to vote. There you go. You just voted yes on that. Number one issue for you guys.
These interviews are not going particularly well.
As we wrap this up, number one issue for you, and do you support voter ID to vote? Absolutely. That is a no-brainer, right? How you doing, beautiful? How you doing today?
Just fine.
What's your name? Where are you from?
Mindy from Hebron, Kentucky.
Ooh, Hebron, Kentucky, local. Number one reason why you love President Trump?
He's real.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. He's truthful.
Anything you'd like for him to work on, or what do you think his focus should be going into the midterms?
More chairs inside.
More chairs inside.
So we can all get in.
Yeah, I would love that as well. You know, there's a packed crowd here for you. Big race as well, and Massey being challenged. I don't want to get your thoughts on Thomas Massey.
Anyway, you kind of get the point. It's extremely low information, folks, and a lot of confusion as to what is Trump doing for the people. It's very interesting to hear, well, Trump is genuine. He cares about the average person. And then you got the guy who goes, well, I have kids, so my most important thing is family values. Oh, what about sending people's kids into war, an optional war, a war in which it seems as though the objectives you've laid out are, in a practical sense, impossible to achieve? Well, I like Trump because of family values. That's kind of weird. Doesn't really make too much sense. The important thing for us to remember is that laughing at these people might make us feel good in the short term, but it's extremely unproductive. And we need to do something electorally to try to make it so that their will is superseded by us coming out in great numbers. Because we can point and laugh all we want. They don't know this, they don't know that. But Republicans have figured out how to actually get power and how to actually achieve wins, which then they can go and do whatever the hell they want. And so looking at the voters, it's important and interesting to understand how the propaganda trickles down, how people are being propagandized to, etc. But at the end of the day, if we don't do something to make sure that they lose, they're only going to remain in power. And that's a problem for every American. Even them. I want to get people like Trump out of power, even to help these folks. On the bonus show today, John Cornyn flips on the filibuster as Trump is considering endorsing him or Ken Paxton. Wow, what a sycophant. We will also see why every Senate Democrat, except for John Fetterman, has called for a probe of the Iran school massacre. And finally, Iran's soccer team will not be allowed to participate in the FIFA World Cup per the Iranian minister. Oh, dear God. All of those stories and more on today's bonus show. Sign up at joinpakman.com. I'll see you then.